The monetary system still promotes an old language that is subject to interpretation, instead of relying on one that is more efficient. It's a waste of information and leads to chaos, especially in the present where information is abundant and easily accessible through the internet.
So I went to the library and got a book out on the Wright brothers, but I was anxiety-ridden. I wanted to know how airplanes fly. And when I opened the book, it says it was a sunny day in May, and Mrs. Orville Wright was hanging clothing on the line. That bothered my ass no end. That didn't tell me what I want to know. The book, most of the book was sunny day in May, bullshit. Near the end of the book, they killed the pigeon and put wires in its wings and moved the wings forward and backward. That was information. All your school books have a lot of sunny day in May. And you have to learn how to read and scratch. So I get a lot of technical journals, and sometimes a doctor comes up with a wonderful idea. And in the book it says that Dr. Jones has 3 children, Shirley, Jennifer, and Bill. I don't want to know that. I just want to know what he did to make medicine better. But underneath that you can put, if you want to know about his life, you got that. There's so much information coming in the world today, we don't have time for sunny day in May.
You had commented to me earlier that eventually we might move out of the use of words themselves. Is that correct?
Well, Arthur C. Clarke put it one way. He said there may be a language that computers use that has a high degree of referential meaning, but the language that the poets use and the language of love, he said humans might need 2 different languages, one romantic language and the other highly technical. And the romantic language is bound to create lots of problems, which that's where the problems really lie, in language that does not correspond to the real world. When you think, my God, that shouldn't have happened, these children were so young, it was a horrible thing, it shouldn't have happened. Whatever happens is real. What you think shouldn't have happened is unreal, and that's where you suffer. Your concept of reality can hurt you if it doesn't correspond with the physical world. You hear that all the time. They were all so young and the building burned to the ground. What's that got to do with anything? The answer to that question is buildings that are completely fireproof. So you see, talking the way we do is really irrelevant. Let me tell you how terrible our language is today. We say things like, have a nice weekend. You know, why don't you say, have a nice life? Go all the way.
Right.
Do you understand? We say, have a nice vacation. Have a nice life. Go all the way. In other words, our churches even bless our war tanks. This is all anti-Christ. They always need money for Jesus, or God needs money. God doesn't need any money. This is a human concept. So God bless America. Who the hell are you to tell God who to bless? Who are you to say God's on our side? You're doing God's thinking for him. Don't you see that yet? Well, the kids of the future will see that, and they'll say, couldn't you see that the monetary system created most corruption, most crime, wars and aggression, and environment shapes behavior, not some inborn gift? That environment shapes all aspects of human behavior, unless you have brain damage, which is also due to environment. Or malnutrition can also affect the brain. So you see, we need a lot of knowledge. People have to be better informed. And what is most difficult to do is to extract that which is most significant. That's what intelligence is. The ability to extract significance from many different situations, not an intelligence test.
The science of communication does not exist, actually. And there is no science of communication as yet, although to a limited extent we do communicate. A woman that can operate a sewing machine quite well cannot communicate with a physiologist, only to a limited extent. So communication in a society where there are a multiplicity of different reactions and different values does not assure communication. Now, language is an attempt at controlling the behavior of people. It isn't a mechanism for controlling behavior. It's an attempt. People write books because they think they can impart their values to other people. The book is only one piece of the action, and many other things necessary. Conversing with one another, up and back, disagreements, areas where you're a little foggy, not quite clear. So when I tell you that a neurologist doesn't know what a problem is unless they're social, he has no idea. If he works on the brain as a study, how does the brain work? The brain doesn't work, it responds to different cultures. Do you understand that? Asking a question, how does the brain work, cannot be asked outside of the culture. You can't do that. It's like saying, how do we walk? Well, if you lived on a planet with 1/10 of gravity, the guy says, let's go for a 20-mile walk, you say, okay, because gravity doesn't bother you too much. But if you live in a planet with 5 times the gravity of the Earth, the guy says, I want to walk 100 feet, he says, that's too much for me. Do you understand why you respond to the environment? The purpose of language is not to communicate. It's to control the behavior of other people. When you tell another person, mow the lawn, I'll give you $5, no. $10, yes. Money is a control device to a limited extent. If you offer a girl $5 to have sex with her, she'll feel terribly insulted. But if you give her $1 million, she might have to think about it. Even though she's a moralist, she might have to set a morals aside for that deal. Otherwise, I have to work for 40 years and never get that opportunity. Is it an opportunity? It could be an insult to some people. So, use your head is no language at all. Or you're dumb. There's no language, no communication. Or you shouldn't have done that, there's no communication. Or I hate you, there's no communication. Unless you say you're at the sink run and overflowed everything and had to work 4 hours cleaning it up, try not to do that again, otherwise I won't let you near the sink. Okay? Whatever it is that you have to do. So you've got a long way to go. Most language is noise. When people sit and talk to each other, if you check with them 3 days later, what did you talk about? They usually don't know, because it was not significant. When normal people get together and talk, they usually say nothing. They can't say anything.
Two languages, one not subject to interpretation, like mathematics, chemistry, or physics, and another sentimental one, like the one you are listening to right now, but improved by gestures, mimics, or another set of signs better organized and universal.
Remember, we speak in sentences because we have to take a breath. But if we had a turbo lung, you know what that means? Where air came in all the time, you wouldn't have to speak in sentences or write sentences. It's because we run out of air, so we can and then we say something else. You understand what I'm getting at? So I would say if there's any real advanced civilizations that can travel millions of light years through space, they would have come to something like that. Instead of words being abrupt, they'd be like that, rather than the man and the ship. That's because you have a tongue and you clip things. But the future of communication will be more like a song.
Although it would seem that this solution can be put into practice, the separation of human beings by culture, languages, ideas, patriotism, or the educational system transforming humans into workers are some huge obstacles in realizing a more useful set of languages inside the monetary system.
So when people set out to communicate, they set out to share language. And it all depends on what the rewards are for a certain behavior. If you have a certain philosophy and you're a ruler of a certain country, if somebody offers you $2 million, you may sell your country short for a home in Switzerland if they deposit $2 million in the bank. So the $2 million is a method of persuasion or communication. Do you understand that? That's why it's not possible in a monetary system where there are certain ways of gaining advantage. If the communication takes away your advantage, there's no need for you to learn that kind of communication. So in a monetary system where rewards vary, it's very difficult to establish communication. That's why people that come from different cultures cannot communicate, except to a limited extent. If one Indian tribe has a different philosophy than another, they may not want to communicate because it may upset the conduct of people in the tribe. But if a common enemy appears, then the tribes might merge temporarily to defeat the common enemy. But they don't sit down and communicate. They communicate, communication is maintaining positions of differential advantage. They do not seek to communicate. They seek to maintain those conditions. Now, there are many scientists that say, yes, we're interested in developing a means of communication. But even scientists have vested interest. So their communication is affected by vested interest. Nobody is so pure as to say, I seek pure communication. You'd have to forget all about your culture, advantages, and living in a nice house, making money. All of that would interfere. But if you wish to communicate with another person, you either set out advantages, in other words, you bring the other person gifts, then they say, what have you to say? If you come at them and say, we're taking your land away because we can operate your land more efficiently than you can, they don't say, great, do that. They have vested interest, and they maintain their vested interest. That's why you can communicate on the nature of the planets, and people will listen to you. It doesn't affect their income, their style of living, or their values. If you tell them that the moon always faces the earth as it goes around, they're willing to listen to that. But if you tell them things that interfere with their positions of differential advantage, communication fails. That is, there's no such thing. In the future, all primitive people will be updated, not treated as an anthropology study. Is it possible to develop a science of communication? I will say no, not within established systems. If a system is established, it automatically cuts communication.
If you relate the information available through science, the situation is ridiculously dangerous. With so much information around, you cannot rely on a language that is so diluted and meaningless.